Speculation about the balloons is the latest misinformation. Is our government setting us up for Project Bluebeam? Is that what this is all about? The fake UFO stuff that they're gonna push. Are they gonna wait until they're gonna bring us into World War III? Then after World War III, have used Project Bluebeam to set up the world, to set up the American people. They already seen this weird green lights off of in Hawaii, which is weird. Is that part of Project Bluebeam? What's really going on? But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button. Share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon where I talk about things I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my merch store where I have I Will Not Comply t-shirts as well. So check those out as well. All right, let's talk about this news. Um, there was an update last night on the latest rounds of balloons or whatever they are showing up um, and being shot down around the country. So you may want to go and check out some of those things that people were talking about. Read some of those articles. There was a great article by Hot Air, John from Hot Air, that gave us an update on what's really going on. Um, the real issue for journalists, however, is the almost total lack of information coming from the White House, with much of what has been released consisting of vague suggestions. You know, you have one military person come out and say that it's a UFO. He wouldn't rule out some type of alien UFO, and another military person coming out and saying, "Nah, we don't know yet. We really don't know what it is," and all this other weird stuff coming out of our government. Now, however, officials seems to be growing increasingly bothered by analysis who have been filling in the information gap with speculation. I mean, what they expect us to do. The administration has labeled all of this conjecture as the latest example of, quote, misinformation that needs to be swatted down. So now, because we don't have the information, we're left to fill in the holes. We use conjecture and things of that nature, and they call it misinformation. They always call alternative views misinformation now. Now, when I hear the term misinformation, I totally ignore it, and I suggest you do the same. Just do your own research. But and the legacy media is dutifully marching out to broadcast that information, so the peasants can be forced to shut their un-American pie holes. Association Press emphasis added. I can't. I mean, Associated Press is just terrible. They pretend that they're not biased, but they're totally biased. Um, but the downing of four aerial devices by U.S. warplanes has touched off rampant misinformation about objects, their origin, and their purpose, showing how complicated world events and lack of information can quickly create the perfect conditions for unchecked conjecture and misinformation. This is according to the Associated Press. The presence of mysterious objects high in the sky doesn't help. Quote, there will be an investigation and we will learn more, but until then, this story has created a playground for people interested in speculating or stirring the pot for their own reasons, said Jim Ludes, a former national defense analyst who now leads the Pell Center for International Relations at Salve Regina University. There you have it. You people need to stop, quote unquote, speculating and stirring up the pot about all these objects that are being shot down. You'll just have to wait until the Biden administration settle on whether whatever story they eventually plan to tell us about these objects. Uh, I'll grant you that some of the suggestions being made in the usual internet rabbit holes are definitely out there and at least bordering on conspiracy theory territory. These include claims that Washington is putting the objects up and shooting them down to distract attention away from the toxic railroad spill in Ohio. I don't think that's the case. The war in Ukraine, distraction. I don't think that's the case either. Or the investigation into Hunter Biden's laptop. Um, I don't know. I don't think they're. I think maybe they might be setting us up for like a Project Blue Beam situation, but I don't think that's the main intent here. I still don't really know what's going on here. But it's not just the supposed fringe of the internet commentary complaining about the lack of transparency regarding these events. The White House is hearing about it from the press corps in the briefing room. If the Pentagon has figured out what these things are and where they're coming from, that information should be shared with the public. The objects have already been seen from the ground by civilians, and there is footage available of them being shot down. How much is national security going to be impacted by talking about it at this point? We already know about it. Um, Even if you're the sort of person who tends to believe in the possibility of non-human intelligence lurking around the planet, a theory that I really do believe. I believe they're actually extra dimensional rather than extraterrestrial. The Bible talks about them all the time. I'm not really going to get into that right now because I can go down. I can talk for hours about what they really are. But I find it hard to believe that's what we're dealing with here. Reporters in the briefing room have asked John Kirby over and over whether the Pentagon thinks they might be aliens, and he didn't help matters any when he said we're not ruling it out. Again, I think they may be setting us up for a Project Blue Beam type of situation where they pretend like it's an alien invasion or landing or what have you. I think this is all setting us up for something a big, more of a power grab, more of a control type thing going on here. So who are the people fueling all these speculations and pot stirring? It's not me. It sounds to me like our White House officials are doing plenty of that on their own. And if they don't want people making up their own answers, they should probably start providing us with some that can be backed by science. Don't expect that to happen anytime soon, though. There is some inside information about the objects and the government's response to them being released today, but it's only being given to senators in a classified briefing scheduled for 10 a.m. Eastern time this morning. So that already passed. I wonder what came out of it. Do they really think this is gonna tamp down speculation? Of course not. It's quite the opposite. The next round of debate will include suggestions about how the real story must be something huge if they have to keep it classified. The reality is that we already have a pretty good idea about why all of these objects are suddenly showing up in the skies. It's been almost 2 weeks since NORAD commanding General Glenn Van Herk told reporters that we have missed many Chinese surveillance balloons in the past because of quote a domain awareness gap. Again, I talked about that before. What do you mean? What gap? We spend all these billions upon billions of dollars on military stuff, and there's a so-called domain gap. We had fine-tuned our radar systems and other sensors to specifically look for hypersonic weapons and missiles, but we did it in a way that allowed the system to filter out smaller, slower-moving objects. Now the filters have been lifted, and tons of what are very likely balloons of various species are showing up. Some might be Chinese, some might be the Pentagon's, some might be from civilian contractors from the military industrial complex, such as Lockheed. Probably all of the above. Maybe the White House will be gracious enough to tell us at some point. I doubt it. But let me know what you think. What do you think these things really are? What do you think the government's covering up? Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and check out themarkrepublics.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.